welcome to GloryBees. Today I'm going to be showing you our Blazing Star block that is part of the Quilts Around the Bay shop hub. Today I'm going to show you how to make the Blazing Star. GloryBees decided to do something a little different, and with our block we did a little bit of thread work. We're going to start by stabilizing the background of our fabric to the stabilizer. So everything's been provided in your kit, and we are just going to get that nice and pressed. This is going to really help stabilize the stitches that we're going to be adding to the block to give it some dimension. Okay, so with our template, we're going to go ahead and draw on our two-sided pieces fusible stabilizer. This is included in the kit, and we're just going to draw the three little tops of our flowers right here. I'm going to draw that for you, and when you're drawing this, you're going to draw it on the side that does not have the grid on it. This has a grid on the front, and on the back it's solid. We're going to draw that on the solid side. So we're going to take and draw these out with a pencil. Works really well. We need 3 of them. If you want to make more and you want to have a lot of fun with this, you're welcome to do more. There's plenty of fusible here for you to do more than just 3, and it can be a lot of fun to do many. There's a picture here of our inspiration, and this was the Blazing Star of Maryland. The flower, I believe, is in white or the purple, and so we chose to do the purplish pink. Just thought that was a lot of fun. Okay, so now I'm going to cut this out. We have 3 pieces for the top of the flowers, and we are going to take the purple fabric that's included, and we're going to lay these pieces on there. We're going to fuse them. So you need to take the back off, which is the gridded side of the fusible, and then we're going to lay these here. Once we get these on, then we can take and press those, and then we're going to draw our design onto our background fabric. And we are going to cut this right on the edge. We do not need to have a seam allowance because we don't need that. We're going to just go ahead and cut these pieces out. Okay, so now we have our 3 flower tops cut out, and we're going to go to our background. And what I like to do is I like to lay our template, which I made for you, it's in your kit, underneath of the background fabric. And from there, we're just going to draw the outlines. So now that I've drawn the outline onto the background of the fabric, I am ready to start composing my flower. I'm going to start with our green stems, and I have some green King Tut thread on the machine. We're going to start at the bottom of the stems and follow our lines. But the first stitch that we're going to use is going to be a reinforcement stitch. The reinforcement stitch on your machine looks like there's 3 dashes next to each other. So I'm going to go ahead and start this out, and you're going to see that it repeats 3 times over itself, making the stem a little thicker at the bottom. Okay, so I'm going to follow my line. About halfway up. And then I'm going to stop and change back to my single stitch, because what this is going to do is it gives texture to the stem. So the bottom of the stem is going to be thicker, and the top of the stem is going to thin out, just like it would, you know, in nature. You're going to have that. And then I'm going to stop and lock that stitch off and cut. Okay, so this is the look that you're going to get. So when you look at it, you can see that it's much thicker here at the bottom than it is at the top. So we're going to continue on and do the rest of these, and then we're going to start on the next portion. point we have all the little green stems put in, and we're going to start with the fuzziness on the stems. And there's like little prongs that come off the stems that look like little spikes here. And we're going to put that in by using one of the decorative stitches, which is like a feather stitch. And if you look at your machine, like on this particular machine, we have number 26 in the quilting designs, or you can use number 27. And I'm going to go to my quilting designs, and I'm going to pick stitch number 27. Okay. Now that I've picked that stitch and I have my variegated thread on, which I believe the number of this is 947. It's a King Tut 947. We're going to go ahead and put those little spiky stitches in. Now when we do that, you have to remember that on your machine, the way they're stitching, you may want to turn your project around and do it from the top to bottom at this point, because it's going to work a little differently. So we're just going to use this stitch on the stems that actually have the flower top to them. So I'm going to start at the top of the flower. We're going to start with that stitch. A good thing to do though is to have a piece of scrap to test, to check your stitch. So right now I haven't tested this, but I can tell you I'm pretty happy with the way it looks. So I'm just going to follow the green stem all the way down, and at this point I'm going to change up the width of the stitch. Because I'm at 9 millimeters now, I'm going to take it down to 7. So if I take it down to 7, it's going to get a little bit smaller as I go down. And so you'll see the stitch width change and get a little smaller. And then I may even want to go a little smaller than that and go further down. So let's see how that looks. And this is something that you just may want to play with. And go real tiny there. And then I'm going to lock it and stop. Okay. So that turns out a nice little feathery stem. You can see the green through it, but you can also see the variegated, which is in the flower. And sometimes you get a little pull there, and you can just go to the back and, pull that thread that came through from your thread cutter all the way to the back, and it'll lay it nice and flat there. So now that we've got that one done, we're going to move on to the next one, and we're going to do exactly the same thing. So I'm going to start at the top. And the reason I'm starting at the top is I want those to go up. The design goes up instead of coming down. If I were to start at the bottom, what would happen is instead of those little spikes, going forward and going up, they're going to be reversed and come to the downside. So now I'm going to go back to my default, which is 9. I'm going to do my stitch width back up to the 9 because it's at the top and I want it to be, the full stitch. And I'm going to follow that down for a little bit. And then I'm going to stop. I'm going to change that width down to about 7 on stitch width. And then we're going to go a little bit further. And then I'm going to take it all the way down to about 5. Making it smaller. And so you can play with this and you can really have some fun with it. And just, you can do double on these. You can really play with this stitch. So as you can see, we're just moving along there, dropping these in. Okay, so the next part is to put our background for our flower top onto our background. And where we have drawn that out, we're going to take and just lay these down. I've already peeled the paper off the back to make it easy. And we're just going to set these here on our flower. So let's go ahead and press this in place. And then we're going to start the fringe. The fringe is a lot of fun. We're going to be using your overcast foot. Now, Janome has an overcast foot that looks like this. Bernina has a small overcast foot. Brother has an overcast foot. Pretty much all the manufacturers, all the different machines, you can get an overcast foot. The overcast foot is what makes the 3D effect on the top of the flower. Okay, so the next step is to find your overcast stitch on your machine. And on the Janome, I find that as in my utility stitches, and it is going to be stitch number 13. Okay, once we get to stitch number 13, the stitch length has to be shortened. So our stitch length here is at 2.5 is the default. I'm going to take that stitch length down to about 1. Okay, so with a stitch length of 1, we're going to start at the bottom, and we're going to put the edge guide for the foot right on the corner of the fabric. So then we're going to drop the presser foot, and we're going to start stitching that right up that side. And you're just going to go right up the edge of that flower. You're going to follow that all the way around. And you will have to occasionally stop and raise the presser foot so you can go around the corner a little bit. If you have your hover feature on, that works really well. And so I just take it real slow around the top. Okay, when I get to the bottom right here, I'm just going to raise the presser foot, slide it back, actually put the needle up, slide it back so that comes off those little tines. I'm not going to cut the thread yet. I'm going to turn it, and I'm going to just use this edge right here on this last side. So it's just going to line up with the stitch that I already made to the right. I'm going to drop that back down, and now I'm going to go right up the center. And then I'm going to lock that stitch at the end, and it's going to go ahead and cut, and I can slide this off. Now when I'm done, this is what you get. It really looks a little bit of a mess, to say the least, but watch what happens when I turn this over, and we're going to trim it, and we're going to get our fringe. So we're going to turn this over to the back, and you can see the stitches here on the back. I'm going to take a seam ripper, and I'm going to seam rip all the way over to where the straight stitch seems to go right there. Okay, these I want to leave alone, so I'm on the inside, and I'm going to go all the way around and trim that. I'm going to cut it. Okay, so let me get here. It looks like I got a little heavy right there. Not to be concerned, it will all work out. So we're going to cut along there like that, all the way down to the end. And this I'm going to have to pull out a little bit. It looked like it knotted right there, but we will be able to get that cut right there. Then on the one on the inside, I'm also going to do the same thing. And I'm going want to trim to the right with the seam ripper. I'm just going to cut it all the way down right there. Then when we turn it over, this just pops right out. We're going to just take this and just pull it up. Just pull these out. And now we have our fringe. So we'll just take that all and pull it out. And you have your nice little fringe flower. I'll just pull those up. Now if you want more of a fringe, you can do a couple more lines in there, and that is now a fringe. That is how we made our 3D flower. Now I'm going to do one more for you, and then you can have some fun at home playing with that. It is really a fun technique. I really enjoyed this flower. I think you will enjoy learning a new technique and having fun with this. Okay, slide it off, and there again, that's what it looks like. And now we're going to go in here and we're going to cut these right along the inside. You don't want to cut the front thread, the top thread, which is the purple, because that's what's going to give you your fringe. You want to cut your bobbin thread, which I put white in here so that you could see the difference. And the white being my bobbin, once I trim that, then the purple, the variegated purple, is going to come to the top, and that's where you're going to have your really nice fringe. And sometimes this takes a little practice, so you know, having a piece of scrap to practice on isn't a bad idea to learn how to get comfortable with the fringe foot, or I should say your overcast foot has another use. So this is pretty cool. Okay, so we're going to flip it over. And I'm going to use the opposite side, and we're just going to pull that out. Yep, trim that off. There we go. And there you have it. Our very nice little fringed flower on the top. Okay, we are finished. Here is our block with our little fringe blazing star. I hope you enjoyed our demonstration today. If you have any questions on how to put your block together, or if you need further instruction, you're welcome to give me a call at GloryBees. Enjoy the shop hop, and we look forward to seeing you then.